Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impractical Machinist podcast. My name is Patrick. You can find me on Instagram as @JobShopperTN. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd appreciate a 5-star rating.
I'm Bradley with Marvel Machining. Also, if you're on YouTube, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the Practical Machinist YouTube channel.
On this episode, we are joined by Dylan Jackson, founder of Proteum Machining in Arizona and the host of the Within Tolerance podcast. We're flipping the script on Dylan today, giving him the chance to shed some light on his career and how one of the most successful manufacturing podcasts came to be. Also, Cameron's daughter is sick, so he'll be absent from this one. So I do have to ask, Brad, what's the temperature outside where you're at?
11.
Dylan, what about you?
48. The high of 74 today.
Damn.
Oh, what is it here? Let's see. I'm probably right in the middle. 44 with a high of 48. So
we got a low of -1 and a high of 12, but it currently feels like -10.
I don't even know what that feels like. That sounds horrible.
Monday is -11 to 1. Damn.
Jeez, man.
I have to plug my truck in, otherwise, oh man, it struggles. You can see the thing literally shake when it tries to start.
Oh man, that's rough. It is rough.
I had to start with that because Minnesota to Arizona, there's a little difference there.
Oh yeah.
Holy
Check
smokes.
back with me in the summer, and I'm sure I'll be lusting after your cooler temperatures. But right now, this is the time of year where I get to flex on the rest of my machinist friends for sure.
Uh-huh.
Like I can deal with the heat. It's not too bad. You stay inside, you have good AC. But man, I can't even imagine having to bundle up just to walk to my car or anything like that.
It's terrible. I wear long johns in the winter. Like a normal thing for me now.
Yeah.
And as I get older, like the cold bothers me so much more. It's like I can just feel it in my toes and my fingers. It's just like, fuck.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, certainly glad to have you on here, Dylan. We've been working on this for a little while.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. And, of course, you had me on your show here not too long ago, and that was a blast. So definitely been looking forward to this one. If you would, let's just give the audience a little once-over on who you are and what your business is, as if they don't know who you are if they're watching us.
I'm sure there are plenty who don't. I'm Dylan Jackson. I am co-owner of Proteum Machining out in Tucson, Arizona, and also the host of Within Tolerance podcast. Proteum is a quick-turn job shop, so typically we do 3 to 5 day lead times on fairly complex, lots of 3D surfacing, tight tolerance work. And then Within Tolerance is a manufacturing podcast that I have typically a new guest on every week, or my on and off again co-host, Chris Sabatini, and we just, kind of dive into the backstories of people in manufacturing.
One of the things that I'm always curious about, I listen to your show pretty regularly, and your focus is usually either your guest or if you and Chris have something new that's going on. But if you don't mind, why don't we dive into, how did Dylan become a machinist, and then what led to you actually wanting to start your own shop?
For sure. Yeah. I think at its base level, I became a machinist through a lot of failure. I was going to the U of A here in Tucson for mechanical engineering, and was the typical 18, living on my own, had zero personal responsibility. For some reason, was dumb enough to sign up for any classes in the morning that I would never go to anyway, and was kind of not failing out of school, but I got to the point where my GPA was low enough that the advisor was like, "Hey, we're gonna have to ask you to leave for a little bit, so you need to raise your GPA to come back." And I was like, okay. And we have a pretty good community college system in Tucson, Pima Community College. And so I went to there and needed an elective. And I was like, I've kind of heard about this machining stuff, and signed up. They have a Mac 100 class, which is the real basic stuff. And then they have a Mac 110, which is when you actually get to start cutting and using a manual lathe and stuff like that. But you can test out of Mac 100. I was so naive and so confident. I was like, oh, I can totally test out of this. Like, I'm sure I can figure it out. And the test is like how to read a micrometer, how to read a a digital or not a digital dial caliper, all this stuff. And I was like, I maybe got 1 out of 20 questions right. And so I started with Mac 100 and really started liking it. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this is all of the practical things that I was missing from mechanical engineering, because I've always loved to make stuff. As a kid, I was always taking stuff apart and rebuilding it. My dad always had a big wood shop, so we were always building stuff. And it just kind of scratched that itch of like, oh, I can make stuff. This is cool. And so I was like, oh, they had a few certificate programs and then an associate's. And I was like, oh, I'll go through and get the manual machining certificate. And then I can go and get a job while I'm going back to school for engineering. And I got through those classes and I was like, oh, well, they have the CNC operator certificate. I should learn at least a little bit of that. And so I took those classes and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I think by the time I was just about to finish that, I was like, I'm just going to finish out the associates. Like, this is too cool. I love this.
Nice.
And so I ended up going for, I think, 3 years for a 2-year program, because somewhere in there I had a motorcycle accident that took me out for a semester and a half. But I think when I came back from that, again, very naive and dumb, I was going through Craigslist job postings trying to find a entry-level machinist job posting, and there was a shop looking for a Mastercam programmer, and I had just started my first Mastercam class. And I went in and I was like, hey, I can't do this yet, but I will. Give me a few months and I'll get through these classes, and I will be able to do this. And they're like, hey, well, we can't pay you yet, but you can come in and work. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Fair enough. And so I swept floors and loaded parts when they would let me, and things like that. And then they had a maintenance guy quit, and they were like, hey, we've got an open paycheck now. Do you want to actually make this a part-time, full-time thing? And so I started working there, slowly worked my way up to one of their top programmers, finished out school, all of that stuff. And then I want to say maybe a year before I left there, Brad's my business partner, other Brad, he and I met in school. We were both in Mastercam class together, and we both bonded it. He rode motorcycles, I rode motorcycles. He was into cars, I was into cars. We always sat next to each other, chatted nonstop. And we both were dumb enough and naive enough and frustrated enough with where we were working that we were like, oh, we could definitely do this better than our bosses. Having zero idea of any of the business side of it. I think a lot of people who start shops are like, oh, I'm a much better machinist than my boss, so clearly I can run a shop better than my boss. And so we kind of were joking about it. It wasn't really a serious thing. There was a robo drill that popped up in Phoenix without its parameters, and I was like, oh, I've put parameters back in Fanuc machines. We could do that, and it was $3,000 or something, super, super cheap. And so we were like, oh, let's buy it, and contacted the guy, and then it sold out from under us. And we were so crestfallen by it. We were like, oh, I think there's something here. I think we actually do want to do this. And so we found a Kitamura locally, which was a brand I was very familiar with. The first shop I worked in had, 14 or 15 Kitamuras from 83 to 95. So I was really familiar with working on them and making parts on them and all that. And we found one for a really great price. It was a shop that you walk in there and it looked like a Haas showroom with how many Haas machines they had. And then they had one bastard child Kitamura in the corner that apparently only one guy knew how to run. And so we got a great deal on it, bought it before we even had a space for it, quickly found a space to lease that had 3-phase power, and just kind of hit the ground running. It was for a long time, our other 40-hour of the week job. And really, at the beginning, it was a maybe 5 or 6 hour a week job. We would have the occasional job that we would find, run it through, make enough for rent and whatever that month, and that was it. And then it was just kind of slowly it's been slowly building for, this will be our 11th year. So yeah, slow.
Nice,
But
man.
yeah, we continue to be hesitant to hire because the thing I always say to people is the people I can trust, I can't afford, and the people I can afford, I can't trust.
Yep.
I've worked with a lot of people that, I mean, especially now we've got some pretty nice machinery, and like, there's no way in hell I'd ever let them touch a button on that machine.
I'm in the same position. Like I've thought about hiring. I've talked about it many times, but I just had someone out resetting up the UMC, and it was a $7,000 just for them to realign it in 4 days. And like after that, I'm thinking to myself, like, fuck, what if I had somebody here that I can't trust and they crash it? What if I have them come out and fix it and then they crash it again?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I get mad at myself when I crash it, but like I can walk out the door and forget about it because it's my mistake. I'm going to pay for it. Like what it is. I can move on from it. But if somebody else did it, fuck, I don't know. I'd probably strangle somebody.
Right. And I think that's the hardest thing with dealing with other people is it's so easy to fall in the groove of like, well, I would have seen that. Like I wouldn't have done
Yep.
that. And it's like, you might have done that. Like, but it's so easy looking back to see problems and to see things wrong when you're looking back on something that you already know the solution to. I don't have a good way. I don't have any good advice here on how to get over that because I'm the same way. Like I see people do dumb shit. I'm like, why would you do that? But
Right.
like, then I do dumb shit on my own. And then looking back, I'm like, oh, well, I should have known better. You know, there was a lot of red flags that I just like looked past.
Yep.
So
It's
but yeah,
I'm the
so
same way. I see people online post stuff like a dumb crash, and it's like, what the fuck were you doing? Did you not catch that? But I never comment, and I hate the people that do because it's like, you've made that mistake. Like it's going to happen. Everybody, it doesn't matter if you've been doing this 20, 30, 40 years. You're going to make a mistake at some point.
the best thing I've ever watched on the subject is Nicholas Means, he's like a VP of development, or he's had a bunch of roles in the tech space, and he does all of these talks about building teams, but they're always through the lens of aerospace. So like he's got one on Lockheed, he's got one on like all these plane crashes, and one of them is on the 3 Mile Island disaster, like the nuclear meltdown. And he goes through, it's a fantastic talk. Like if you never heard him speak, I would watch all of his videos. I've watched them all twice because they always have such a great lesson at the end, and they're just super interesting. Like he's such a nerd about this stuff that he really pulls out the real information about the crashes. But he gets through all of this about 3 Mile Island, and like the report that was done on the disaster really took a blind view of it. There was no blame. It was just, here's why it happened. Here's what we can attribute to it. And like, for example, one of the big things was that the guys running the reactor had all served in the Navy on nuclear subs. And so the warning signs that they were looking for were significantly different than the warning signs of a nuclear reactor on land. And so the stuff that they were looking for, they were like, oh, that doesn't matter. I need to focus on this. And it was just, poor training, poor, prioritization of errors and things like that. But it's always so interesting to hear that stuff. And like that's the kind of stuff that does lead to machine crashes where like, yeah, you see somebody crash a machine, you're like, what the hell were you doing? And he was like, well, I was watching for the collision on the back corner that I've had before, not the one in front of me. And so I completely missed it and wasn't paying attention to where that crash happened.
Yeah, I've always found that like if you're worried about, this problem, that's the obvious problem, it's going to be something stupid that ends up getting you. You're going to be hyper focused on this, and then something else will bite you. It's funny, me not owning a shop, but working with other machinists, I try to be sympathetic with them. I'm hard on myself when I screw up, but I can imagine it would be a lot different if you're the one paying for it, like you two would be.
I think it is, and then sometimes I think it's not. I think I was far more aware of what I was doing when I was an employee because I didn't want to ruin somebody else's stuff. Like I didn't want to be at fault for, because I don't want to be that guy that they looked at that was like, that you just cost me $8,000. Like, because then I'm gonna feel bad and I'm gonna think about it. Where if I scrap something, like it's, I don't know, I guess I can walk out the door and forget about it because I know like there's nothing I can do about it at that point. I have to fix it or I have to move on from it. There's no reason to stress about it. But if there's somebody else looking at you pissed off, like that's stressful.
Right.
for
I can see
sure.
that for sure. Yeah.
But I did the same thing with the UMC one of the first times I ran it. Mine's got a bigger table. It's a 25-inch diameter table. And I mean, that's the first 5-axis I ran. So I wasn't paying attention to where the spindle housing was, and it came down and it just bumped it. It was like a 10th out bump, but I was like, holy shit, I was looking at the tool holder, making sure that cleared. I didn't see that. So now my main focus is that now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. You hear it in motorcycle training, target fixation. Like you've
Yep.
seen, I don't know how many videos I've seen where the guy is looking at the corner, like off the edge of the corner where he's not supposed to go, and that's where he ends up going. And it's because you like get so fixated on what you're not supposed to do that like either you do it or it's something that you should have been paying attention to that gets you. Yeah, so it's tough. It's really tough. Humans are incredibly flawed, and we're running hundreds of thousands of dollars in machinery every day.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you got to find someone if you hire them to trust. Like you said, you're never going to get the perfect one.
No, definitely not. And like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that, but like that's a big reason why we're investing so heavily in automation. Is like, at least if something goes wrong in automation, it's still my fault.
Yeah.
And this is like a total Band-Aid on me just not being able to trust people, but like at least I can kick this can down the road a little bit longer. And hopefully like by the time I do hire somebody, I'll have more processes in place to prevent issues. Like we're implementing a lot of probing to make sure like, oh, the right pallet's loaded. Oh, the right vise is on the right pallet. Oh, the stock is in the vise on the right pallet in the machine. Okay, cool. Now you can run.
And see, that's probably a generational thing, because if you ask anybody that's in their 50s or 60s or more, they don't do that. It's all, you're supposed to do this job, and if you don't do it right, I'm going to not be happy.
Right.
I'm not going to put any
just tell you to
safeguards
get
in
good.
place.
You're like, I'm trying to get good, but like I also know I'm stupid. So like, how do I
Exactly.
get around this?
Exactly. Man, quick little side tangent. The guy that taught me how to program, he told me a story about where he worked at a place that made these giant turbines for like hydroelectric dams and stuff like that. And these turbines are like 20, 30 feet in diameter. They have all kinds of machine components welded on, balanced. And if I remember right, this guy was doing the finish probing. He was using some kind of huge CMM to measure everything. And he did something wrong, and he crashed the CMM right through it.
Oh no.
And so the CMM's damaged, the turbine's damaged, it's got to be repaired. And the thing with that kind of stuff, if you miss dates, you start getting fines for big money when you start messing with like, government energy projects. And ultimately that was a European company. I don't think an American company would have done this. They basically looked at it like, well, clearly we didn't have the right training or the right safeguards in place to make sure this doesn't happen. So it's not your fault.
Right.
Way different mindset. I'm curious, Dylan, what allowed you to start getting those first few jobs for your shop?
It's what I tell everyone who always asks how to find work. We just talked to everyone we could. Like we put it on Facebook. Brad and I made a post that was just like, hey, friends and family, we started a machine shop. Anybody got some work? He reached out to old coworkers. Our first biggest customer was a old coworker of his that had gone on to be quality manager at another shop. And they just subbed out work that they didn't have time for to us. And it was actually a perfect solution for us too, because very much like Xometry was, still is, they would just say like, hey, this is the print, this is the part, we have 30 of them to do, we need them. Like they would tell us like Thursday, and they'd be like, we need them Monday, here's the price, do you want to do it or not? And like, so it saved us from ourselves of like underquoting or not knowing how to quote. And I mean, granted, maybe it took a little longer to learn that stuff, but it also meant that like we were just accepting work. They were like, hey, we've got 100 of these to do. Do you want to do them? Hey, we've got 50 of these to do. Do you want to do them? And slowly, like we built up to where they were having us quote stuff and having to do more work. But they did a lot of stamped or laser cut aluminum that then needed like precision features put in it. And so that's what it would be. It would be like, hey, we got 50 of these plates and they need like 4 tight tolerance counter bores and, some threaded holes. Do you want to do them? It's like, okay, sure. And so we were building fixtures, or initially we were using their fixtures, and then it turned out that their machinists didn't know what they were doing, and like we would have like counterbore depths that were like plus or minus 2, and then they'd give us fixtures that they somehow were using that were out of flat by 10 thou, and I'm like, what? How? And so we just started quoting, like once we got to the point where we were quoting work for them instead of just accepting work. We just started quoting the first run of any new part of like, okay, we're going to build the fixture and we're going to keep it internal. Because I even at one point went in and like fought with the guy because he was accusing us of making shit up and blah, blah, blah. And like, it was like, no, dude, like I know what I'm doing. Like you did this wrong. I'm sorry. So yeah, but that was our biggest, first customer. I had another friend who worked as a mechanical engineer at another company reach out and just say, hey, we got all these parts, just started sending us work. And it just became, you just got to network like crazy. And I know that everybody says that and it's really cliche, but like, you just don't know who knows what. I would be shocked if everyone doesn't know at least 1 or 2 people that knows somebody who needs things machined.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So early on, when you guys were first finding customers and work, and it was the 2 of you with one machine, how were you handling who was running, who was doing what?
So we were very lucky, I think, that Brad worked night shift, I worked day shift. So very often,
nice.
I would come in at night, set something up, or prove it out, and then he would come in the next morning and run it, and then he would set up the next thing, and then I would come in at night and run it. Nice. And so we got a lot of work done despite having no time. Yeah. And it really worked. And then he had Fridays off too. So like he would come in Friday night sometimes and we would both be there and could kind of game plan and things like that.
Heck yeah, man. That's almost perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. It worked out really well. And like the machine we got was fantastic. It was like I said, a Kitamura with a Yaznak control, which I had never run. That was kind of the only wild card. And it ended up being one of the best controls I've ever used. I was running similar Fanuc machines of the time at work, and it was so much better pound for pound than any other Fanuc control at the time. Like it was a 2001 machine, and like it just made a 2001 Fanuc look dumb and slow. Like it had more quality of life improvements, easier tool setting. We had like a external high-speed board for like high-speed code processing, and we never even had to turn it on because it processed code so quickly compared to like a Fanuc of the year, which might stumble over itself trying to 3D surface a chamfer or something like that. So
yeah.
You still have the machine?
No, we sold it years ago. We actually ended up. This is a fun story. So we listed it. We had bought a used Brother, and then we decided to buy a new one, and that was like one of the gateways to one of us going full time. But we were like, okay, we need to get rid of the Kitamura, and we bought that thing for $10,000, and then we listed it for 12, I think, 12 or 10 on Craigslist because it like. We got an absolute steal. Like it was way, way undervalued. It was probably worth 25 when we bought it. And this weird guy calls me out of the blue and says, hey, I've got a buyer for your machine. I was like, what? I'm like, okay, send me an email. And he sends me an email and I go to their website and this company, I think they're in Florida maybe, they basically go around scraping Craigslist ads of machines from around the country and put them on their website as if they're selling them, and then find buyers for them and do all of that stuff. And so this guy had scraped our Craigslist ad, found a buyer for it. We got $10,000 out of it. So like we owned that machine for, 6 years for the cost of a few major repairs. Like we had to repair one of the main NC boards at one point. I feel like there's a few other little things here and there, like an oiler went out that we had to replace. But yeah, it was the most bizarre thing. And I thought it was a total scam, but I was like, all right, well, here's our banking information. Like if you wire the money in and come get the machine, sure, it's yours. And they wired the money in and it sat for a week and a half or 2 weeks and didn't get pulled back out. And he came and had a rigger come and pick it up, and I was like, okay, we're done here. But
Wow.
it just felt so sketchy the whole way. I was like, why are you ripping people's Craigslist ads? How, like, this feels like almost illegal, but like I guess it's not. So whatever.
Do you know what he ended up selling it for?
I have no idea, but if he gave us 10 grand, I'm sure he sold it for 15 or something like that. Like he sold it into a shop that was all Kitamuras, and they were buying up a bunch of used ones for excess capacity because I guess they had bid and got a big package of parts or something. So we were like, whatever, man, it works great. Here you go. Comes with all tool holders. Get it out of here.
I've looked for some machines occasionally, and I've come across a couple of them where it's like I find it on eBay and I do a little bit of digging on it, and I find like 3 other companies listing the same machine and they're all different prices. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
oh yeah.
And then I think I reached out to one of the companies and they said, well, yeah, we just, we're listing it for them. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not listing it for them if you're asking $3 grand more.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So with having a partner, is it a pain? What are the pros and cons of having a partner?
It's fantastic. It's incredibly frustrating sometimes. People are just different. And then we were friends first, and we're still very close friends. So it's tough to be angry with your best friend of like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing it that way? Why would you not pay attention to that? But at the same time, like I've always got somebody here that if I'm unsure of like a quote, or if I'm unsure of like a way to respond to a angry vendor or something like that, I at least have somebody here. Hey man, can you come look at this email? Like, am I really going off the deep end here, or is this like a valid response? Or like, hey, what do you think about this price? I think you're going to be the one running this. Are you comfortable running this part for this money, or do you want more? And so like having that kind of stuff is fantastic. And it's he's invested in the business. It's our business together. So it's really nice to have somebody who wants to be here and loves running the business with me. But at the same time, we have very different work schedules. We kind of work very differently. That can be a point of frustration from time to time. I think it's like any relationship in your life. Like there are ups and downs. I would say it's like probably the closest to, it's like very close to being married almost, like you're like, our finances are intertwined. I see him as much as I see my wife, like it's an everyday thing. And just like every relationship in your life, like there are some days where you're like, get the fuck away from me. I hate your guts right now. And then there's some days where I'm like so happy to see him, and it's great to like get to sit down to lunch and just chat during the day, and like we're having a great time. And so like it's got its ups and downs, but overall it is overwhelmingly positive.
Are you guys 50-50?
Yeah, we're 50-50.
So you said one of you guys went full-time first.
I did, yeah.
Was there frustration that you were doing more than him?
No, I don't think so. I think that I think he saw the freedom that I had all of a sudden when I went full time, and definitely got a little jealous. Like he pushed to go full time earlier than I felt comfortable with it, but that's also because it was just such a leap into the deep end of like, oh, we've got to support me now. Like that's a big difference, and we haven't had that because I went full time 4 or 5 years ago, and so for 5 years. Both of us had a full-time job, and we're supporting ourselves, and it was totally fine, and the business just reinvested in itself. And so I think that was maybe not a point of contention, but like he was like, hey man, I'm hitting 10 years at my job next April. I'm out in next April. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like he's like, no, I'm out next April. I was like, okay, we'll make it work. Like that's fine. Like we'll figure out a way. Yeah.
Yeah. It was always a thought early on. I talked to many buddies and friends, and it was always like, hey, you want to do this together? You want to do this together? And I was always worried about what if, because I was going to go 100%. And I was always worried, well, what if you don't? How are we going to deal with, like, if I'm going to get pissed if I'm here every day, 10 hours a day, and you're like 5 hours? Like,
right. For me, I didn't ever felt that towards him because I knew that he was working, and, like he had put in overwhelmingly more money into the original purchase of the machine and stuff. So like I owed some sweat equity for sure. And we always knew from the beginning that I was going to go full time first because I had significantly more experience programming. Like he was working in a production shop, running more or less the same parts over and over, and like he was the guy who would do modifications and new versions. But I was working in a true prototype shop and programming 5 to 10 new parts a week. And it was like, okay, well, if one of us is going to go full time in our prototype shop, it's probably going to be me first since I'm doing most of the programming anyway.
Yep. And that's how it was. You were doing most of the programming early on too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was always my
programming.
Yeah, a little bit. Like his job had, I don't remember what they had. I can't remember if it was Solid Cam or something else. And so coming to Fusion, he had a lot to learn. And he just didn't, the programming for production is so significantly different than programming for prototyping. It's like I need it to work once, not I need it to work for 1,000 parts or tens of thousands of parts. It's like I don't care if it's kind of janky. Does it make a good part that I can ship tomorrow? And so kind of changing that mindset of like, oh, well, I've got to really think through this. And I'm like, no, you need to get parts on the machine now. Like just start roughing and then figure out the rest. I'm like, let's go and just get it done, dude. Like, let's go.
It's a completely different atmosphere because I do a lot of stuff. It's prototype stuff, one part. If that end mill could probably do 300 inches per minute, but if I'm running at 100, I don't fucking care. Like, it doesn't matter. I just need to get through one part, and it needs to be perfect. That's all that matters. And I get hassled on it a lot when I post videos. People are like, well, I wouldn't do that way. I'd have put a smaller end mill into shorter fluid. I'm like, it's one part. It don't fucking matter. Did you see the part I ran before? I needed that fluid. I'm not going to take it out of my machine for one part. I don't care if I have 3 inches of fluid and I'm only cutting 1 inch. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But then a few times I've gotten into production jobs. Earlier this year, I had a job. The first time I ran 4 parts. I think the cycle time was like an hour and a half, and it came back on like a 250 part order. And I'm like, so I put it in and I start running, and I'm like doing the math. I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. I took that hour and a half program and I got it down to like 40 minutes.
Yep.
And it was just like, that difference is a lot in production. But if you're doing one part, it's just doesn't matter.
100%. Yeah.
Well, if you take the time to speed it up for one part, but then you break an end mill in the process, you're probably taking 2 steps backward at that point.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, and I take that further too, of like, if you're pushing things so hard, I very often tell people like, oh, well, what's your spindle cost? And they're like, I don't know, 10 grand. And it's like, okay, well, over those 100 parts even, are you going to save enough money to afford a new spindle in case you push it too far? They're like, no, I'll save like 2 grand. I'm like, so don't do it then. Yeah. Like that's the math doesn't math, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Like you got to think of all the things that could go wrong. And I feel like spindles go quicker than anything else. Like if you've got a proven process that you just keep turning up and up and up, like you might check apart and be okay, or you might check apart and blow up a spindle, or you might, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. And if you're not doing that math of like, can I afford to fix anything I'm going to break if I do this? Because I see people all the time. They're like, oh, well, I went from 200 to 300 inches a minute, and it's look at how cool it is. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a 5-minute roughing cycle anyway on an hour-long part or a 30-minute part. So you saved, a minute or two. Like, good for you. And now you've broken your process reliability. Like, who cares? Like, you're doing it for the cool factor, and that's it. Like, do the math, dude.
You know how you save a spindle? Have an extra one on the shelf, and your spindle will never go. You'll never get to use it.
There you go.
I've had a spindle on the shelf for 6 years.
That's
my
awesome.
biggest fear buying used machines was the spindle's going to go. So I found one that was rebuilt, certified rebuilt. I bought it, and my spindle will never go now.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, that's great though.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to rust out on the shelf before I ever get to use it.
Have to get a rebuilt title for it.
Yeah, rebuild
everything around the spindle will go, but not the spindle. I've had a drawbar go. It's just spindle's never going to go.
That's awesome.
So if I understand you right, you only worked at one job before you actually went full time with Proteum. Is that right?
No, so I had 3 jobs
Okay.
before I went full time at Proteum. I started at that first shop, left that, then was doing contract programming for about 6 months, and then so I guess 4 jobs technically, including that. And then I went to a shop that I learned a lot about what not to do. Like it was a place that by the time I left, so that they hired me on, they wouldn't hire me as a programmer. They didn't believe my resume. They hired me in way too cheap, but I was just like, I needed a job. They did basically everything wrong. I just could not believe it. It was, it was one of those places that the story I always tell is that right before I left, they gave me a job that was hardened 4140 or 4340 up in the mid to high 50s. And I think I bought like $100 worth of AccuPro end mills to make it through the order, and they got angry at me. They were like, "We've got perfectly good crap on the shelf that you can, pull out of the used drawers and use for that." I'm like, No, I can't. No, that's not how this works. Like, you're making, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars on this prototype run, and you can't afford $100 worth of end mills. Like, what are you talking about? And so I left there, and when I left there, I was like, I would be surprised if they lasted 6 months. And I think they lasted 4 before
wow.
closing down. And then I went to
Nice.
my last job before I went full time. I think I was there 4 or 5 years, and that was I got hired in there. I hired in there through a recruiting company who completely lied to me to get me to the interview. They're like, "Oh, they need a Fusion 360 programmer. They're looking for a programmer. You're perfect for this." I get there, and they're like, "What's Fusion 360? We're looking for a button pusher or somebody in inspection." And I was so fed up at my other job. I was like, "Inspection, sure, sounds great. Like, it'll be low stress, not a problem. Give me that." And I learned more being an inspector for 2.5 years. I learned more about machining than I ever did as a machinist the prior years, because you really learn all of the ways you can screw up a part, like all the ways you can gouge a part, all the ways that you can make surface finishes poorly, really how to check parts correctly, and what all the GD&T means, and how to achieve that correctly. And then about 2.5 years into that, they were like, "Oh, wait, you know how to program?" "Yeah." And so then they pulled me into engineering, and I was a process engineer and an inspector because they couldn't really afford to lose me on either end. And so I did all of the auto CMM programming in PCDMIS and a lot of process development. And I was kind of the firefighter of the engineering team. So like everybody would come and get me like, "Oh, this tool that we've had for 20 years, that's like a custom tool and a brass extension that was, glued together, broke, and now the guy who made the tool didn't make a print. Can you find me a replacement?" So like a lot of my day was reverse engineering tools, reverse engineering processes, and then finding off the shelf solutions for whatever we were replacing. Because like the company I was working at, they started in the late 70s or 80s. And so there was a lot of hand programmed parts. There was a lot of, hand ground tooling that would just work and work and work until they blew up. And then it was like, "Oh, the guy who designed this is dead. Where do we go from here?"
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was the last job before I went full time. And I learned so much there. Like, I am so incredibly thankful. And I'm so very good friends with everyone who worked there, because it was a fantastic job.
And then ultimately from there, you decided to go full time with Proteum.
Yeah, so we were getting busy enough that we really just needed somebody full time. Our customers were asking for more capacity. I actually have a friend who lives in Chicago and owns a LED lighting company, and he has been kind of a business mentor and was pushing me for a long, long time to go full time. And I think so. I went full time in November of 21, I think 21. And in 2020, the end of the year, I didn't take him up on this, but like he called me one day and was just like, "How much money do I need to give you to go full time and quit tomorrow?" He's like, "What are you worried about?" And I was like, "The money, obviously, like we want to have some money in the bank." He was like, "How much do I need to give you as like a quote unquote investment for you to quit your job tomorrow. And I was like, that's not going to happen. He's like, well, you need to do it. Like, get it done. You're blowing you're working way too much and not seeing success as you could on either side. So like, do it, get it done. And so that really gave me the kick in the pants to like, okay, let's get our finances in order. Let's figure out what that number is that we need to have in the bank. Let's figure out what kind of work we need to have coming in for me to go full time. For years, we said like, oh, we need a brand new machine so we can have service and support. Because like when something would go wrong on the Kitamura, Brad and I would put on our service caps and try to figure it out. And like that, it was cool. We learned a lot. But like when you're trying to make customer parts, it's not cool. And especially when you're having to just like figure stuff out from a decade-old information on, Practical Machinist or CNC Zone, or like, I'm like looking through all these forums to like try to figure out my problem. That's like some weird boutique drive issue that maybe 5 people in the world have seen. And so we bought a new Speedio, which really helped. We started getting our stuff together, and then, I went full-time. I gave my job way too much notice. I gave them 6 months, and I feel like they kind of squandered it. Like they kind of didn't have me document stuff until the last month I was there, maybe, or 3 weeks. And they were like, oh, we need all of this stuff documented. And I'm like, well, you got 3 weeks. Like, I'll do what I can, and then I'm out. Like this, I'm not changing my date. Like this has been 6 months in the works. So
Yeah.
So you went full time 2000 or 2021. What all do you guys have for machines now?
now we have 2 Speedios. We have a S700 and an F600, and then 2 Hermla C250s now. We just received our other one with automation and all of that in December. We moved shops in 2024, the beginning of the year. We moved in here, end of January, beginning of February 2024, and at the same time bought an incredibly lightly used C250 from a friend locally. We had gone to Germany for the Hermla open house. They invited us out and like kind of, took us around and all that because we were starting to look at 5-axis. And then when I got back, my friend who had a shop locally was like, hey, I've got this job coming up from a customer that we have to buy a 5-axis for. Like, what would you get? I'm like, I literally just got back from Germany. Like, this is what I would put my money towards. And, he bought all the holders and stuff that I would have bought, Lang for the work holding, like I would have bought, and then ran that job out, and then ended up getting kind of a life-changing thing going on, and was like, hey, you want to buy this machine that you basically spec'd out? And at the time I was like, no, like we really want to get one that's automation prep, blah, blah, blah. And then I think it was only like 2 or 3 weeks later, I no-quoted something from one of our big customers, and he called me. He was like, dude, you need to stop saying no. I want to send you more work. What can we do about this? He's like, we will drop our payment terms a little bit if that helps. Like, what can we do? And I was like, all right, well, if you do that, I'll buy a 5-axis. And so we bought my friend's C250, brought it in last February, and it has been an absolute game changer. Really, for prototyping, I know everybody says how great 5-axis is, and you hear all these cliches about it. It really does live up to the hype. Like, it's just so good, and you start developing all these workflows to really get stuff done quicker and have all these standard tools, because now you can tilt away and use ball mills to surface annoying little features that normally you would have had to have an extended length corner radius end mill for, and it's just been so amazing.
It definitely changes the way you look at every part. It's only been a few months for me, but everything that comes up, I look at it different.
Oh yeah,
it's interesting.
It's fantastic, and the Hermla machines have been very regularly hitting sub 5/10, without comping, without doing anything on opposite 90s. I'll surface a feature on one side and then flip over and do a pocket or something, and the distance between them is sub 5/10, if not sub 3/10. It's just so accurate with scales and their epoxy granite and stuff. And then the Heidenhain control, that's been such a quality of life increase. Because the way Hermla builds their machines, I can load tools from the back during a program. So like if it's a part with a lot of roughing or like roughing and pre-finishing, I'll program all that really quick from templates, throw it into the machine, have it start running, finish out the programming, load up all the specialty tools I need for it while it's running, and then be ready to run by the time it gets to those tools. Yeah, it's been a real game changer for us. And then we bought our second one that showed up end of December. I think we've been waiting on it for 3 months. And that's the same machine, but with the new 20K air oil spindle, the pallet loading HS Flex system, and then a tool tower. So now we have 118 tools in that machine, or can have 118
Good
tools.
grief.
Yeah.
That's more tools than I have in the entire shop where I work out.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise. Like I knew it was going to be expensive to tool that machine up, but you spend all this money on like a down payment and get this machine rolling from Germany, and then you spend like I think over $100,000 in laying and holders and stuff to like fill the machine. You're like, oh, this got expensive really quick.
I bet.
And like we didn't roll that stuff into the loan because at the time we bought the machine, we weren't 100% sure what we were going to do, and B, that's a expensive machine, and like getting a loan for that, even as a business that's doing well, is like not the easiest thing. Like banks were the one we usually use was just like, oh no, we would need way too much of a down payment. Like it doesn't make any sense for you. And we found another bank that actually specializes in all this, and they were like, oh yeah, not a problem. Like here you go. But yeah, the whole thing has really stress tested every single part of our business. Like we bought it. Turns out we need more power, so we're bringing in more power now. The air oil spindle, like we've had an air oil spindle in the Kitamura, so we knew it consumes a lot of air, but like it consumes a lot of air, like way more than we thought. So like we upgraded our air system and added the full loop, and then it was like, oh, still not enough. So like we already had a second compressor that we hadn't hooked up, and I've spent the last 2 days hooking that up in a lead lag situation so that we can have all the air we need. And it's like everything about the shop is like, okay, this is showing all the cracks in our processes, which is great, but it's stressful.
Well, I'm sure the aspect of taking on a huge payment is not easy either.
Yeah, we've had enough work. Like I spent the last 6 or 8 months kind of just doing a little tally mark of like jobs that would run on the Flex well. Because we do very, very high mix, low volume, but we do a lot of very complex parts with tiny tools. So like an hour to a 2 hour cycle time is not uncommon for us. It's actually pretty common for us in the 5-axis. And so if I've got 5 parts to make, I shouldn't be standing at the machine for 8 hours, or like I shouldn't have to be here for 8 hours to like finish out that job. I should prove out one and then let it eat overnight and use up all that time that we weren't using. And so once we started seeing that data, it was like, we've got to do this. Like we've got to do some kind of automation. It makes no sense for either of us to spend the time here. We're both worth more than a button pusher, and we shouldn't be spending any time being a button pusher.
I'm sure for a small shop, it's a game changer for you guys. I mean, I have the horizontal to pallet pool. I don't do much production, but when I have had it, letting that thing run 24/7, the job I ran earlier last year, I mean, it ran for 3 months straight, 24/7, nonstop. And it was just like, I need more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. When we recently started moving over to Hypermill for 5-axis programming, and a big reason for that was their virtual machine simulation. Because I'm more than happy. Like a lot of our parts have $5 of material. Like they might be a very expensive part because of the time and the quality that goes into them, but like material cost itself is fairly low. And so like I'm fine programming 3 or 4 jobs, setting them all up on the pallet changer and just having them run overnight. And like worst case is a tool might break because I overloaded it. But like with, really good simulation, nothing expensive is going to happen, or I'll create scrap. But like either way, I'll come in the next day and like things will be mostly proven out. Like I can either change a tool, adjust some tolerances or stuff, but like I've saved all of that time of just sitting waiting on the machine. And so like we're seeing it as it's just going to be such a multiplier for both Brad and my work here. It's going to be fantastic.
But 99% of jobs start on the lathe. So I assume you're prepping all your material on your manual lathe first, right?
Oh no, that manual lathe sees maybe 10 minutes of use every quarter or so.
Hold on, you don't have a CNC lathe?
Oh no.
How are you in business?
Oh, I know, right? How could I possibly get parts done? No,
I
we're
suspect you're not going to make it through this year.
Yep.
yeah. We decided very early on to just specialize. And I think that that's something that really helps any shop is finding your niche and really going for it. And like we spend a lot of money on really good tool holding and work holding. Like we use Power Grip, not exclusively. Like we have some ER and stuff, but for the most part, most of our stuff is in Power Grip. We use Lang for everything on the 5-axis. I see the price of like high-end lathe tooling, and it's like I don't have the budget to be like a baller in both camps. You know, like I can stretch our budget and get really nice tool holding for my mill and make sure that I don't have to worry about those things in the mill. But like if I want Capto on a lathe too, and I have to learn to be a lathe guy, I don't have the brain power and I don't have the bankroll for that kind of stuff. And like for us, like our whole philosophy from day one has always been to like buy the best stuff we can and spend that money and that time, not just for like, oh, better run out, better tolerance, whatever. But like, for example, Power Grip, we bought it, yes, because it has great run out. But like the biggest thing is like, I don't have to worry about run out and I don't have to worry about pull out ever again. For me, it's just like quality of life stuff. If I'm running hard and fast, I don't want to worry about tooling. I don't want to worry about tool holders. I don't want to worry about my part pulling out of my vise. And if I can check all those boxes off, and then when something goes wrong, it's a much smaller list to like attend to. Like, oh, that tolerance is off. I don't even have to think about, is the tool running out? Like it's just not. So like, okay, it's got to be comp. It's got to be programming. And it's a much easier list to go down of like, okay, what is going wrong? There's so many solid things that like, okay, it can only be a couple things.
Huh. Wow. That mindset has never entered my mind before, man. But like, I totally get it. Cause on my side, I'm running in a shop where I'm trying to push things a little bit harder, but I'm limited to ER holders. We don't even have that many side locks. I mean, Brad gets all over me for using side locks, but like, we don't even have. Yeah.
Do you have any side locks? Dylan?
Do I? No. I have one for a machine washdown tool. That's the only one I have.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got a couple for broaches.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Other than that, Pat, throw them away.
I know.
I mean, what do you think you're doing when you're tightening that screw? What way is it pushing? It's pushing one way.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And I've been there too, Pat. Like I fully empathize and sympathize with you because that's kind of why Brad and I have that mindset is that we've worked in so many shops where like the first shop I worked in, my boss, like I loved my boss. We're still good friends. We talk fairly often, but like the dude needs to stay off auction websites because like we would just get like boxes of like random holders from like random auctions and like half of them might be roached and just absolute crap. And so like you'd have to spend a few hours just even going through them to find like a holder that was good. Yeah. And like everybody had their favorite set of holders because there was a bunch that were just crap and sitting on the shelves still. So I've been there and like that's we have this mindset not because we just love to spend money, but it's like because we've worked in so many shops where that's not the case and we've felt the pain, as I'm sure you are, where you're just like, I don't know, something went wrong and it could be any number of 30 things between the computer or the loose nut behind the wheel and the actual part. And like, now I got to figure out what's actually going on.
Loose nut behind the wheel. That's great. No, exactly. And honestly, like the whole point of me bringing that up is the dichotomy of like, you can set those jobs up and have full confidence that, assuming there's not a programming issue or something like that, or comp isn't loaded right, it's going to turn out at least okay. But in my case, like it's pretty, it's a small shop. Like our desk is right in the middle between two vertical mills. We've got the conversational lathe right next to it, and then the horizontals across the shop, but it runs like once a week. And I'm a nervous wreck standing there watching these machines run. I'm just waiting on something to go pop because, I backed off of this some. I'm trying to push a little harder, but being that I'm limited mostly to ERs and, well, ERs, uh, it's hard to do that. And all of a sudden, and of course, in our case, like a tool goes pop, pulls the part out of the vise because we're using the cheap junk vise. Um, and honestly, the Haas trunnion is not that great anyway. Um, Now we don't have material. We got to order more material. It's going to, it messes everything up, which we do have a couple shrink fits. And I was curious your take on that because you've gone all the way to the, what I think of as the top tier of tool holding, which is the power grip. Have you tried shrink fit? And what do you think the difference is there?
Yeah, we used shrink fit kind of in the interim before we got power grip. It's great for a lot of things. It has very low mechanical dampening, which can be a problem depending on how rigid your setup is. Like you'll find if you put the same tool in a shrink fit and a like ER32 or something, that it's usually much quieter in the ER32, and that's just mechanical dampening. Like there's more connections for things to vibrate at and soak up some of that chatter more or less, or that vibration. And so like we found it's just very unforgiving. Like there's a much narrower band of speeds and feeds where shrink fit is very, very happy, and then outside of that, it kind of amplifies that chatter tendency is what we've seen. But man, like in terms of cost, like you can get into it very cheap. The holders are relatively cheap now. We used a bolt buster or a torch. Mm-hmm. Like we started with a torch, then we found out like, oh, you can buy a bolt buster for like $200 on Amazon. And it is an induction heater. Like it's the same thing, same technology that all of these $10,000 shrink fit machines are using. It's not going to cool it. It's not going to stop it at the right time for you. But like for $200, you're not blackening these holders because you're, throwing a torch at them, and it works really, really well. We did that for years. All of our standard roughers were in shrink fit for quite a long time.
Okay. That's great, because that goes along with what I've seen too, because I'm brand new to shrink fit. Like I never had it at my previous job. We just got a couple, and I never really saw it till recently, but the guy I work with that's much more old school than I am, he kind of worded it the same way. It's like it's almost like this is going to sound so dumb, but it's like it's too rigid sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the same thing what you're saying is like it's too solid to where there's nothing to absorb any little vibrations or anything like that. So
I run almost all shrink fit, but on the times where I've had production jobs where I've had to push things, I've noticed it. But where it's just my conservative programming on one or two parts here and there, and I'm not pushing things, like I got no issues.
Oh yeah, when you get such great clearance right off the bat.
Oh yeah,
like that's I think the best thing about shrink fit is that you can go real small, still have great run out, still have super long reach, all that stuff. Like they come in such a variety, and they become so commonplace that like you can find almost anything you need. Like we have a few shrink fit extensions that I've used for like janky parts where I remember one we had like a 15-inch diameter part that had like a hub on the center of it, and I had to tap or thread mill 1032 in the middle of it, and like I put the thread mill in a shrink extension in an ER32, and that's how I was able to reach the center of it. And it's like I'm not doing that with any other system really. Like there's nothing. I mean, I guess I could have done the real old school way and like grabbed some brass, turned an extension, and then either shrunk it or glued it into the end of the extension. But like that's got its own issues as well.
For sure. Huh. Is there anything else you'd like to cover about your business before we move on to the podcast?
I am always willing to share anything, but it's really hard to find like one thing to really narrow on. Especially like I get a lot of not nerves, but I feel like we have so much survivorship bias in my shop. Like all of the things we've done have led me to here. So of course they work really well. But like there's so much luck and stuff that goes into it that I'm very hesitant to just be like, this is the way to do things. It's like, no, this is the way to do things for me at that time in the world. And I lucked into all of the cool stuff that I have gotten to do because of it. And I think that, yeah, at the end of the day, like I can describe a lot of things that have worked for us, but I can't say for certain that they're going to work for anybody else. Like we use a lot of very weird work holding. Like we're really big on tape and glue for plate work. We do a lot of vacuum for plate work too. And but like I know a lot of people who have tried like the tape and glue method and it hasn't worked for them at all. So it's just I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
You made a comment, a two-part question, kind of. You made a comment about buying that last machine. Your customer asked if adjusting the payment terms would be helpful. What were the payment terms they had?
I think we were net 60 with them or something, and they dropped them to like net 20 or net 15.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
Like they were really wanting to help us out. So, yeah, that was fantastic. Like that showed they're serious, and we were like, okay, if you're that serious, we'll be serious too.
Yeah,
like we'll buck up.
That is definitely a customer you got to hold on to, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Every customer has been net 30, but I've had a couple switch to 45, and at first it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but another 15 days, it's like, damn, that was a long time.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I'm not in a position where I'm worried about getting paid, but it's still, when you're doing your accounting and you're looking at it, it's like, okay, well that was a little bit longer. That was interesting. Like,
yeah.
I don't know that I really like that
again before I got paid. That's uncomfortable. Yeah, we've had a few customers recently that have tried to push longer terms. Like I had one recently that when we got onboarded, they were like, "Oh, accounting asks if we'll do net." I think he said either 60 or 90, and I was like, "No, we don't support anything past net 30." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we had to try." I'm like, "Well, what?"
Oh my goodness.
So with that, have you ever had to deal with late payments? This is something that always comes up.
Yeah.
I think we've had maybe one or two small customers have issues with that in the past, but really it hasn't been that big of a deal. Like most of the customers we have are fairly big companies and have AR departments and stuff like that, and so they might be a little slow, but usually all it takes is like a little prodding of an email or a phone call, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry." We've only had one non-payment ever, and that was incredibly frustrating. That was like very, very early on. We took some work from Instagram. It was some guy doing spinners, and we were doing the production run for him, and we did, I think it was 50% down and then 50% upon completion or something like that. And he did the 50% down, got the parts, and then ghosted us, and then like a few months later posted seconds on his website, like, "Oh, we had issues with these." And so I like reached out. I was like, "Dude, if you had issues, let me know." I tested all of them. Like everything worked great. We checked them all. Nothing. We never heard from him again. It was just like, okay, looking back on it, I think it was like all of $800 or $1,000. But like at the time we were a new company and we put a lot of work into it, and it felt like a lot, and it was incredibly frustrating. But yeah, for the most part, we don't deal with late payments all that often, thankfully.
Yeah, no. It comes up a lot in chats. We talk about it. I've never had to deal with it. The most I've really ever had to deal with is, maybe an error here. Somebody missed something, shoot out an email, and I get to check the next day. Not a problem. But I did have early on, I had a customer that it was one of my first customers I ever got. Shot him an invoice, net 30. Didn't show up, sent him an email. Like I was kind of waiting on the money so I could buy some material at the time. Shot out an email, and she was like, "Oh no, like our payment schedule, we send out on Thursdays. your due date was this one, so it goes to the next. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like you would backtrack backwards and you send it so I get it on time. She's like, well, that's not how our payment schedule works. So then the next job I shipped it. I followed their payment schedule for shipping parts.
Yeah.
I ship it next Thursday and they're like, well, we need them on time. I'm like, I need to get paid on time.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry, I only ship parts on Thursday, actually. So you fell on the wrong Thursday. My bad.
Yep. They're still a customer to this day and they pay on time now.
Yeah, I have a few friends that have dealt with this, and like I think that the biggest thing you can do if you have current work with that customer is just email them and say, "Hey, all work has stopped on your current job until I get paid." It's like I can't proceed forward until this is taken care of.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with allowing it to happen the first time and not saying something, and then the second and third, and then you gave that customer permission to continue doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you really have to evaluate, like, is it worth pursuing this customer at this point? Because especially if it's a case where they just don't pay you or put up a fight, like the case with you, Brad, is that's BS. But like, okay, sure, whatever. It's a few days, but when it drags out to a week, a month, your net 30 becomes net 60. Like a story, I remember the owner of the first shop I worked at. They were doing a lot of work for a Japanese automotive supplier. Okay, big company, right? International. You'd think they wouldn't have any problem paying their bills. Well, they did a lot of work for them, a lot of one-off type stuff, and all of a sudden the payment stopped coming in, and they tried calling them, nothing. Tried emailing them, nothing. This was back in the days of fax. They faxed them, nothing. And so basically the owner and his wife had to basically go to their office and do like a sit-in protest and be like, listen, we're not leaving until we get a check. And they told the receptionist or whatever that, and she was weirded out because it's like, who are these, two hillbilly people coming in here asking for money from this place?
Right.
But they sit there for a little while, and some dude come out there with a nice check, and business as usual after that.
Oh yeah. Well, I've had friends who looked into like sending people's debt to collections, and then also putting liens on their parts so they can't use them legally in their assemblies and stuff. So there are ways to get the right or the wrong attention, but the attention of people if like they're really trying to screw you over. But yeah, we typically, Brad and I are pretty good about cherry picking our customers or really only supporting customers that want to have a relationship with us. And so like if I don't have a buyer or an engineer that I can call and just say like, hey man, this is unacceptable. Like this is really hurting us. And then they'll do something about it. I don't really want like a nameless customer for the most part, at least somebody that I'm going to like bend over backwards for. Like I'll do work here and there for people like that. But like if it's going to be a mainstay of our shop and somebody that like I work with, so much of what we do is collaborative with our customers of like dealing with DFM issues, and we deal on such a small time frame. Like our typical lead time's 3 to 5 days, and like,
damn,
we don't get prints, we don't get anything like that. Like they send us a model and they're like, hey, we need parts yesterday. Like, can you get them here? And that kind of collaboration really needs like a back and forth, and I need somebody to lean on. And so like if we don't have that, it's not somebody that I really want to put that kind of work into.
How do you manage 3 to 5 days? Because shops I've worked at, man, it takes a week and a half before chips even get cut.
Some late nights for sure. Like sometimes it's just like, oh man, I charged a lot because I know I'm going to be working late. But we're also very good about, we've spent a lot of time developing standard tool libraries for both types of our machines, Fusion templates to really help kind of move that stuff along in terms of work holding and programming. We've got a lot of right-click templates in Fusion of like, oh, I need a 256 thread mill. And it's like, boom, it's already done. Like I just apply it to the hole and it takes care of it. Or like, here's my standard probe, rough, finish the outside, finish the top. And then it's like, okay, I've got a few tool paths to program. But It's just been a lot of spending the time developing processes so that we can support that stuff.
And what about material? Do you just keep a lot of material on hand?
We have some. We buy a lot of material from McMaster, which is next day for us.
Gotcha.
And since we're quoting and turning stuff so quickly, I go on McMaster, find the price of the bar that I need for their part, put it in the quote. They're usually willing to pay for it because they want parts tomorrow. It's like, and that's the value we're bringing to our customers. They're not paying time and material. Usually it's like, hey, this is going to be a very expensive part, but it's going to be perfect, and you're going to be able to throw it in your assembly immediately. And like that's what we bring to them. Like they're not the very, I would say almost never asking for inspection reports. Like I said, we don't really have prints very often. I don't think that they check most of our parts, and that's why we have this relationship with them. It's like, okay, we know if we send it to Proteum, it's a guarantee. Like it's just going to be done. And like that's not to say that we're perfect. Like we're not. Shit happens. Like sometimes we're a few days late. Sometimes parts fight us. Sometimes things happen. But for the most part, it's like a pretty much guarantee for our customers. Like, okay, we sent them work. They're going to take care of it. They're going to take care of us. They're going to take care of it. And if there's any questions, they're going to raise them. I hear so many people like, oh, these dumb engineers designed this thing that's never going to assemble. And it's like that kind of stuff doesn't leave our shop. Like that's an immediate phone call or an email to my customer of like, hey, I looked at your parts. I'm pretty sure they go together like this. I think you're going to have problems. And like I work with them on that. And like, hey, I can modify this. I can do this to make sure that they go together and they work together well.
Them are the best customers that listen to the person that's making the part. I have a customer that's similar to that where I'd get stuff and it's like, hey, what's this feature do? What's the function of this? Can I change it to make it so I can machine it? And now what they do is they'll send me assembly CAD. So I will see where that part fits, where it sits. And if you have a sharp corner and I can tell it doesn't matter, they don't even question it. I can just put in a radius as long as I know how it's going to assemble. They don't even bother me about it.
Yeah.
It's nice. And I think it goes back to what you said too, having that communication with the customer that's going to answer the phone, that's going to respond to the email, that's going to listen to you, and you don't have to wait. That helps you with that 3 to 5 days, having somebody that can do that. If you have to shoot out an email and wait 5 days for a response, that's not going to work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. And they know that too. My customers, it's like, oh, if we took 2 out of your 3 days of lead time to get back to you, clearly it's probably not going to be here tomorrow. And like, I'll move heaven and earth to try to make sure that it does. Like if I'm waiting on one feature and the part's already mostly cut and I can quickly knock out whatever I had questions on and then get it out, great. But sometimes that's just not how it works. Sometimes I can't start until I get an answer back or whatever.
And I suppose that really changes the way you quote parts, because you're not necessarily quoting parts based on an hourly rate. You're quoting more or less on a service, on a time frame.
Like I have an hourly rate in our quoting built in, but I adjust the prices. The way that one of my customers explained it to me, and I thought was a fantastic way to look at some of this, is he was like, dude, you might have 5 engineers making mid to 6-figure salaries waiting on your part. So like whatever you charge us, unless it's $1 million, he's like, it's a drop in the bucket. He's like, we're going to spend more on wages and lunch for the next 3 days waiting for your part than anything you're going to charge us realistically. And so it's all about, at this timeline and for us and for our customers, it's more about the value we're bringing than the time plus materials. And that's not to say that like I'm raking my customers over the coals all the time. Like that's not how you build a good relationship either. But it means that like, I think that many people would look at some of the parts we make and go, you're making that much money for that part? That's insane. And it's like, yeah, but it's the value we're bringing. They're able to put that together and test that part immediately, like by the end of the week, not next week, not 3 weeks. I talked to some new customers and they're like, oh, we wait 2 weeks for a quote. And it's like, most of our quotes are sub 24 hours, if not less than that. Like I can't believe I couldn't build something and rapidly iterate on something with a 2-week lead time on a quote. That's insane.
Yeah. I do a lot of similar work, and it's, I mean, not 3 to 5 days. I have done some stuff, but there's a lot of times where it's like 2 weeks, and it's, I got to get material in here, I got to machine it, I got to get it down to finishing. Sometimes it's a 2-part finish. I got to get inserts installed, laser engraving, and it's like I don't even quote. I don't even have an hourly rate. I couldn't even tell you what I charge per hour. It's, I look at a part and I know the due date. I know it's not Monday through Friday. It's Sunday through Saturday. It's X amount of days. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. And it doesn't matter if I have to get it down to finishing and pay them their $500 same day fee. Like, you're paying for the service for me to get it, start this day and get it to you that day, no matter what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
If I quote you, if it takes me 10 hours and I assumed it was going to take 5, it is what it is. I didn't lose money. I'm still, I mean, if I actually factor it out, in some cases, there's been times where I made $1,200 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times where I make 100.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if I actually sit back and look at it and actually figure it out, but to me, it doesn't matter. It's, I'm providing you a service and this is what this part is worth.
Yeah,
And I'm not
exactly.
gonna, there's probably, I mean, you guys could do it. There's other shops out there that can do it, but chances are, if you send it to 10 shops to try to get that done in that time frame, you're going to get 2 quotes back.
Mm-hmm.
The other 8 are going to say no.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
they're willing to pay for it.
And like we say no, I think that it's your job as a shop to educate your customers on what parts you are good at.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's good at everything. And like, if you try to be a generalist, it makes this business super, super hard, because you are going to get the yahoos who want a tractor piece along with a satellite part that, you know, needs to be done in 5 days or 10 days or whatever. And like, you can't optimize for both of those. You can be optimized for one or the other, and that's it. Like, and so I spend a lot of time no quoting and talking with my customers, or like calling them and letting, you know, having those conversations. Cause like, I want my customers to look at a part and go, that's a Proteum part. That belongs at Proteum. Not like, let's send this out to everybody, but like, oh, that's a Proteum part that looks like it belongs on their machines. It's like, cool, perfect. And like, I think I've done an okay job of that with a lot of our customers.
Are most of your customers local?
Almost none of them. I think we've got a few local, but most of them are in other states.
Do you take walk-ins?
Hell no. We have big signs on both doors that say no. I don't even know what they say. It's, you know, basically nothing except by appointment. And then my favorite thing is salesmen who still come up, and we've got cameras on like the doorbells and stuff, and I see them look at that sign and then still ring the doorbell. And I'm like, we're never doing business together. You realize that, right? Like, you can't follow a simple instruction like that. And then, like, for example, there are salesmen, though. Like, I had got one guy walk up to the door, read the sign, get back in his car, and call me and go, hey, I'm new in the area. I just wanted to come by and introduce myself. I represent these brands. And I'm like, thank you so much for reading the sign. Yes, you can come in, and I'm happy to give you 15 minutes of my time.
Yeah,
because
honestly,
you understand how to read one sentence and follow the freaking instructions. Like, are you kidding me?
That does show a certain amount of respect, you know, versus just being a typical salesman and wanting to push your way into a situation. So
it's insane.
To me, chances are, if you're showing up here and you're trying to sell me something, I don't need it. If I needed it, I would have found you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was just talking to a manufacturer's rep about this yesterday, where he was like, you kind of only buy things online and direct anymore, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, because none of these guys are value added. Like, if you're a value added distributor, great, I will buy from you. I will happily pay your slight markup to feed your families. But like, dude, I will email a vendor with part numbers, the exact place to buy them, the cost I expect, the quantity, my shipping number for FedEx. And if your next email back to me is not a quote, get the hell out of here. Like, what questions do you have? Except for, like, the only acceptable one is like, hey, by the way, these are out of stock and they might take a little long. But like, when you're asking me about the products that I've already given you every single piece of data point out there for, and you're like asking me like, oh, well, you sure you want 3 of these? It's like, dude, I'm going to order online then. I'd rather pay a markup and not have to talk to you ever again. Like, this is insane. What are you doing? Yeah, it drives me absolutely nuts. Like, but I am more than happy if I like go to a vendor and just like, hey, I need a 1/4 inch end mill with 5.5 inches of relief and a stub flute. And I don't know who makes that. Like, can you give me an idea? And they give me back information. Like, those are the kind of people I'm more than happy to support and buy through, but they're so few and far between anymore. Like, most of the jokers are just like, oh, what did you want again? And it's like, the spreadsheet that I sent you has every single piece of information you could possibly need. Just issue me a quote, please.
I dealt with that yesterday, actually. I got a part I'm trying to get through, first part, before I start running it. But I got a 156 hole I got to get through 8 inches. And I wanted to get through one this weekend. So I didn't give a shit what type of drill I got. And website showed it was a black oxide aircraft drill. Like, I'll just peck through this fucking thing just to get through it. I don't care.
Right.
So I ordered it. Their website said it was in stock. I went to go pick it up. I didn't even look at it. I got home, I opened it, I was going to go throw it, and I'm like, where the fuck is the tool? So then I called them, and I'm like, hey, what the fuck happened? They're like, oh, no, that's stocked at our other warehouse. We got to ship it. It'll be here on Monday. We'll ship it to you Tuesday. I'm like, no, you have to ship it directly to me. And I said, why the fuck does the website say it's available? And he's like, no, that was our mistake. So then he's like, well, you don't want the black oxide one for aluminum. I'm like, dude, I just need to get through one part. I don't care. I don't give a shit what it is. I don't care if I have to peck 10th out peck. I'm getting through it this weekend.
Yeah.
So then he's going through, talking to me through it, and he's like asking tolerances, and I'm like, okay, just send me 2 of them right now. Can you get it to me now? He's like, are you sure you don't want more? I'm like, I need 1. I said, I'll take 2 just because you're hassling me. He's like, well, I'm going to send you 3. I'm going to curry them up. They'll be there in an hour. Fucking things never showed up.
What?
I had no idea.
Oh.
Didn't get an email, nothing. I'm like, you just wasted my fucking time.
Yeah.
And then I overnighted one from MSC. It should be, it's probably the car that just showed up. So
it drives me nuts.
Oh man. I think before we get onto the subject of your podcast, Dylan, I am curious, like, how do you go about quoting a job? Is there any kind of process to use a software?
We use paperless parts right now. I'm not sure how long that's going to continue, but it provides a pretty good entry point for customers. Like, we've got a page on our website that directly drops into the quoting queue, which is really nice, and they can attach files, and it's all secure. A lot of it, I end up spending time modifying the numbers. It's like, sometimes it drastically overestimates the machining time. Sometimes it's way under. Sometimes it's right on. But I think a lot of it is just, we've done enough parts at this point that I have rough ideas in my head of like, okay, op 1's going to be 30 minutes. Op 2 is going to be 15. You know, we roughly quote about 30 minutes of setup per operation, unless I have to build a fixture or do something janky or whatever. But like, for the most part, programming and cutting a set of soft jaws is like 15 to 20 minutes. Plus, you know, if I have to load a tool for op 2 or something like that, it's like 30 minutes is about the right thing for most operations. But yeah, a lot of it is just having a history of, you know, a few thousand parts under our belt now. Just like, okay, I've seen something like this. Yes, it's got a weird feature, but like I've got something in my pocket for that, and I've done that tolerance before on this part, and a lot of it's just, and I'm sure Brad's the same way, where he's just seen enough parts now that like you're like, that's a 20-minute op 1, or that's a 30-minute op 1.
That's a lot of what I do, is I just look at it and know from experience.
Yeah.
That's been a change for me. I used to have to, when I would actually quote jobs before at my previous job, I mean, I had to break it down, which they use paperless parts too, but I was still quoting parts. So that tells you how that worked out.
Yeah.
But I would have to break it down by, you know, program time, setup time, actual machine cycle time, you know, saw time, all this other stuff. Now, since for one, it's much less of a programmer and a saw guy and an operator situation. It's just, we get the job, I do the part, or my coworker makes the part, and it's a 1-off or a 2-off. It's like, it's going to take 5 hours to make that part. That's it. That's all it boils down to. And I let the owner worry about, you know, material cost and all that. So it's always interesting. And it's funny because on the machining side, you've got all this fancy technology, the power grip and the Hermlas and 5-axis and all this. And on the quoting side, it still just boils down to, this is what I think it's going to be, right, wrong, or indifferent. And I
Right.
think that's all quoting will ever kind of boil down to.
I think we'll get there eventually where it'll get you an 85% solution. Like I see a lot of these, especially like Toolpath or, all these automation companies. Like if you're programming the part digitally, you have a rough idea what it's going to take in terms of time. But I don't know, especially like for quick lead time and back to what Brad was saying, where at the end of the day, like it's a gut check for me of like, yes, the math says this part's $1,000, but like I'm gonna have to work 2 late nights and a weekend, so like it's gonna be a $3,000 part because that's what makes me feel good. And
Yeah.
you know what? If they don't like it, that's okay. They can say no, but like this is what I need to make me feel whole on this job. And like I think that's where the black magic kind of comes in. Or you see a feature and you're like, I just have a feeling I'm going to struggle with this. And granted, like, I'm sure you've encountered this too, Brad. It's always the features that you're like, oh, those are going to be cakewalk that bite you in the ass. And then the one that you're like super bent up over and worried about, you try a new thing and it works perfectly the first time. You're like, sweet. And then you're like, oh, but that flatness that I thought I could hold no problem is now 40 thou out, or like, 30 thou out. Like the part came off like a potato chip when I didn't expect it, or I got bad material or something. And it's always the stuff that I didn't expect to bite me in the ass that bites me in the ass. But still, like those are the kind of things that as a quoter, you just see something, you get kind of a feeling of like, man, I think that's going to be a pain in the butt. Like I need to add a little bit more time to figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. I've had conversations with customers where it's, hey, this feature, this is what's going to cost money. Do you need it like this? Yes, we need that. Well, it's going to be a pain in the ass. I'll make it work, but you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I mean, the part is worth what the part is worth. And then like your lead time and your service before, during, and after is worth so much, and that's kind of, all that stuff adds up to whether or not you get the job or not.
Yeah,
And of course,
and at the end of the day, like you can't do this when you're starting out, but like when you're an established company, it's okay to say no and it's okay to hear no. Like I don't want to win everything because I'll just be too busy. And like it's okay for them to be like, hey man, you're just too expensive on this one. It's like, I'll catch you on the next one, dude. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day. Like that's okay. That's a perfectly fine and normal interaction with a customer. You shouldn't have to. The thing I see people do is where they're like, oh, my customer wants it 10% cheaper, wants it 20% cheaper because they say they can get it somewhere else. And it's like, do you want to lose that kind of money? Do you have that kind of margin? Do you have that kind of margin in your schedule? A lot of people completely ignore the opportunity cost of jobs. Like I can't, in our shop, we don't take anything for less than shop rate. Like there's no discounting because it's cool. It's whatever, like, because all I'm doing is hurting my business. Because if I discount my rate 50%, I'm losing 50% on every hour I spend on that job, in addition to the money that I'm not going to be making on that job. It multiplies because you could have been taking work that paid you what you are deserving.
As soon as you discount a part, that's when you break a tool, you crash something, no matter what. I've done it. I've had customers, hey, can you squeeze this in? This is the price. And I'm like, fuck, I don't really want to, but you're a good customer. I'll do it this time. And then it's tap broke. Fuck.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. I mean, we have I'll be completely honest. We have $1,000 minimum on anything. Like you want a hole in a bracket, it's $1,000. Like, and I've told all our customers that. They know that that's the case and they're okay with it. Like they've come to me with dumb shit. They're like, hey man, we just need you to do this. And I'm like, it's $1,000 part then. And they're like, cool, we'll see it in 2 days. Like handshake, we're good. Like, okay. But like we're all on that same playing field of like, listen, man, we're a 2-man shop. We don't have ample hours in the day of just like excess capacity on human programmers or setup or anything like that. It just has to cost this much. Because I did the same thing for years. I'd be like, oh, I really want to help this guy out, or, oh, I really want to work on that part because it looks so cool. And so I'll discount it, or I'll just I'll do it really quickly. And then, yeah, you break a tool and you're 3.5, 4 hours into a 1 hour job. And you're like, dude, I lost my shirt and then some on this job. Like, it's so stupid.
Yep. Yeah. Man, I should do a minimum. I got a customer though, they're automation, so it's like some of the packets will be 60 different parts. So usually it amounts up to a $10, $15, $20,000 job, but sometimes they'll reorder an individual part and it's like, well, that individual part, yeah, it is a $200 part, but I really don't want to make one for $200. Like,
Right.
I just had one. They sent me back a PO just randomly. It was for 2 parts and it was like $350 and it had anodized and then the material was like 160 and I'm like, fuck. But I have it in my quotes that says if you order individually, the price is going to go up. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, material's this, finishing this before I even get into machining. He's like, nope, not a problem. So I ended up like tripling the price and they had no issue with it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why we instituted the minimum, because we were just doing too much dumb stuff that like we just started looking at it objectively and like, yeah, man, every machinist just wants to do the cool shit. But like occasionally the car guy coming in with the cool shit, it's going to cost you like so many thousands of dollars in opportunity costs that like if I just make that barrier of entry a little bit painful for some people, I only get realistic people in the door. Like they know like, okay, here's where we start the negotiations at. And if I don't want to do that, then it's okay. And like I am upfront and I'm also just very nice like about it with people. Like, hey man, I'm sorry, but this is our policy. This is where we're at. If the job's not worth it to you, here's 3 other shops in town that'll probably do it for you. And I'm sure they'll do it for cheaper. But like this is where we have to start the line at.
I mean, that keeps away the guys that show up. They want you to bore out their John Deere tractor axle that's covered in manure for $100 and a moon pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I will say the only exception to that is there's a tea company in town that for the longest time we were sharpening their blades that they used to like mulch up all of the tea and the bark and all that stuff. And we were doing it for like $100 a pop. And it was always like a real pain in the ass to like break into the schedule for it. And so one day I was just like, hey guys, we like tea. You need blades sharpened. We're just going to do this barter now. Like you bring us tea every time you need the blade sharpened. That way it's not in our system. Like it's not a job. It's just something that we'll throw on whatever free machine is available. It takes all of 15 minutes to like sharpen these blades. Because all you're doing, they're not a blade even. They're just like a sharp corner on a rectangle. And so like you just face it. Then you face it's like 316 and it, you know, we do it with an end mill so that it's nice and clean. But it kind of got around that because like we just couldn't charge them enough for me to enter the order and then facilitate the order and remember to invoice them. And I was like, it's more admin work than the $100 is worth, let alone the machining time. And so we were just like, hey man, we're trading from now on. This is a barter system. You bring us whatever new samples you have and we'll quickly throw it on the machine and cut it. And like, job done kind of thing.
That's amazing. Now, so I think we've gotten through the business side of Proteum Machining, but now with Intolerance Podcast, it's a wonderful show, and I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't like an inspiration for Brad and the other guy that didn't show up and me to make this happen. You have a long history of it, though. You've been at it a long time, right?
Yeah, I think 6 years now, something like that.
Damn.
So you've been podcasting longer than you were full-time in your shop.
Yes.
Wow.
That was an episode on the podcast was me going full-time, I believe.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to go back and find that. So how did that come about? Because, it's not, we know, and we had Practical Machinists kind of backing us. You've done all this on your own.
Yeah, so it all started actually because of my old co-host, Peyton from Brick Tactical. And yeah, Brick Tactical. He reached out to me. This was like when the Bomb was really the only kind of smaller machining podcast out there. Like there was, Making Chips, of course, but like that's kind of a more corporate side of it. And like the Bomb was the only small time one. And he was like, hey man, I think I want to do a machining podcast. Like I talked to the Bomb Johns and they were fine with it. Like we're not going to be stepping on any toes. Like, do you want to be a part of it? I was like, sure. Sounds like fun. And It was like that's really what it just came down to, man. It was really cool to have somebody every week to chat with about the trials and tribulations of growing a shop. And he was in such a different vertical than me, you know, making Lego figures and molds for those and all that, that there was always weird differences and similarities in our shops. It was just a ton of fun, and we started having guests, and that was something that from the very beginning I always really wanted to do. Like I love talking to people. I find that people are very willing to talk about themselves, like not in a bad way, but like I love getting somebody going and just seeing that light in their eyes of like, oh man, I finally get to share my story. And then I think around episode 75 or so that was a year and a half into it. He had to leave just because it's a large time commitment, as you guys know. And like we were editing our own one too and doing all that stuff. So it's like even more on top of it. But I was just having too much fun. And like, I still am. Like it's 200 something episodes into it. And it's just a ton of fun. Like I love being able to do this. And I've met so many people. Like some of my best friends, are past guests on the podcast. Like for example, Easton at Mori Manufacturing. Him and I talk every week, text all the time. He was a guest on the podcast and just some random dude on Instagram. And like now when I go to IMTS, I fly into Madison instead of Chicago, and I spend the night at a shop, and then we drive down together every time. And just like so many of the people I interact with daily are past guests and people I've met through the podcast, and all over the world too. Like Josh Hacko and I talk very, very often, all the time. And he's in Australia. Like I never would have met this guy. Like maybe we would have DM'd on Instagram, but I never would have chatted with him on the phone or had his phone number or anything like that without the podcast. And it's just been one of the best things, both personally and professionally, that I possibly could have done.
Yeah. So as far as within Tolerance, Dylan, I mean, you obviously it's grown over time. It's been an organic growth beyond just the connection with people. I guess one of the biggest things that would probably has benefited you from having the show is you get to learn so many different perspectives, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Perspectives, just hear so many success and failure stories of people sharing, the darkest, worst part of their career and, highlights and all of that. And you learn a lot of like what to do and what not to do. Also just problem solving in general. Like I feel like there is very little that I encounter anymore that I don't have like a Rolodex, a mental Rolodex of people I can turn to of like, oh, I've heard of a specialty tool from this person that handles that kind of feature. I've heard of a software that does this. I'll reach out to them and see if they have an idea of what I'm talking about. And that's been just so helpful, is to have that community. And I try to foster that as much as I can with my listeners. Like I'm a pretty open book with people reaching out, and like I get 2 or 3 DMs a week of like, hey man, you might not know this, but like on some episode a year ago, you had somebody who did this kind of machining. Do you remember who it is? And like, thankfully, I'm pretty good at remembering guests. Sometimes I have to like go back and search through transcripts and stuff to find it, but it's just cool. Like machining is so niche in the global scale that like having a community of people that have been on the podcast and all talk to each other and stuff is just, man, it's awesome. It just really is fantastic.
I can get behind that. For years, machining, well, I don't know this firsthand. I'm not old like Brad, but, for years, I think it was a lot more like you just had to figure it out for yourself. And the boomers didn't want to help you, and the people before boomers didn't want to help you. You had to figure it out for yourself. And now, like, Brad and I both, there's a ton of people that we know that like if we are having a problem, which Brad's one of the people I would reach out to if I had a problem, but like there's so many people you could just hit up and be like, hey, I've got this problem. What would you do? And
oh yeah,
that's so huge. And getting to see all these different, You know, you and I, we talked about this when I was on Within Tolerance. Like, there's so many more things you get to see, knowing all these people, and just being like on in the Instagram community to begin with. But you know, getting to really know people like we all do, it really is crazy. You become a, like, what's the word? You almost become like an amalgamation of 50 different people's experience. Like, you take 1% of what Patted Old Boys knows, and you take 1% of what Random Fab knows, and so on and so forth. And it's so much more than just what you know and what you've seen.
Yeah. Well, I think people have started realizing, or not even started, I think that people of the younger generation inherently know that this is not a zero sum game. And I think that for the longest time, that was the feeling in the industry of everyone was like, if you're getting work, I'm not getting work. And that's not how it is. Like, we kind of live in the golden age of machine shops right now, where like there's way more work out there than there are machine shops. There's way more work out there than there are machinists, period. And I just want everybody to succeed. Like, nothing I know is so specialty that if somebody else knows it, they're going to steal my work. And like, if that's the case with your shop, you're gonna fail. Like, that's, if you're leaning hard on like, oh man, I know this one end mill vendor that like, if I use their stuff, my parts are golden. Someone's gonna figure it out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, none of this stuff is sacred. None of it is a competitive advantage. Like, it might be for a little bit, but long term, that's not the goal, or that shouldn't be the goal for anybody. So like, why not share all that stuff freely and compete or be better at the stuff that you can't automate? Like, I can't automate customer service. I can't automate that human touch on the quote, on the interaction, on all of that stuff. And that's the stuff that like long term will win you and continue to win you work from customers. Like, that's, AI is not going to take that away from me. They're not going to make an AI that's like wants to talk to their customers and chit chat a little bit and, you know, find out how I can serve them better. And like, that's the kind of stuff that keeps people coming back. And so I think that people have figured out that like, we might as well all rise together and all share our communal knowledge and be better machinists, and we can all win this work. Because like, it just seems like more and more work is coming back to the US. People are really wanting that local touch, somebody they can go visit, somebody they can talk to in their own time zone, all of that stuff. And I love it. Like, I really do love the community and love getting to interact with all these people.
I've always tried to look at it like the pie is infinitely large, and we can all have our piece of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, I say that as an employee, but like for my employer, or you know, whatever the case may be, it doesn't have to be this. Well, I'm going to try to take part of this guy's slice of the pie because I need it. I mean, you know, granted, all machine shops in a way are competitors. We're all in the same industry, but it doesn't have to be cutthroat to the point where I want to keep this guy from succeeding. Now, if he proves himself to be a piece of trash, sure, whatever. But I'd say that's few and far between nowadays.
And if they are, let them sink their own ship.
Yeah.
I don't need to be a part of it.
No.
Like, I'm going to stay above board. I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And people will reveal their true colors 10 out of 10 times. Like, that's totally fine. But like you said, it is an infinitely large pie, and we all, it always just seems so silly to me to gatekeep any of this stuff. Cause like, that's, unless you really, really have like a proprietary technology that you've developed for your shop, which is 0.1% of shops maybe that have something
Easily.
like that. Like, you might as well just share like, oh man, this is how I cut deep holes with good finish. This is the tools that I use for this kind of feature. This is how I program this. This is how I save, crashes, all that. Like, that's just stuff. Like, we might as well just share it and all be better.
We have I got a buddy, Ryan, A Plus Machining. We have the same material delivery guy, and he's talked to me. He's talked to him, and we've talked to him, whatever. And he's always been like you guys are friends, like you guys aren't competitors, like you guys actually like each other. And we're like, yeah, like we help each other out. If he needs a tool, I'll give him a tool. If it's a Saturday and he needs a quarter 20 tap and he doesn't have one, he can come pick one up. And he's like, oh, I thought you guys all hated each other, like you guys were taking customers from each other. And he's always been surprised by that. I mean, as big as this industry is, chances are everybody knows somebody. And it's,
Oh yeah.
if you burn a bridge, everybody's going to know. Everybody's going to know you're the asshole.
Right. Yeah.
So it's easier to work together, help everybody out. Like you said, there's so much work out there. I'm in a small town in Zimmerman, but I've done work for companies in California, New York. You're not just working locally anymore. It's globally.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it just makes more sense. Like I'd much rather have like a bunch of friends that we can all lean on each other. It's so rare that I talk to people who are like I feel like I talk to more people who are turning away work at this point than are really really hurting for it. Like especially if they're doing job shop stuff, at least like it seems like there's just so much out there, and that's why we have things like Xometry and all of that popping up, and companies like Hadrian, and like there's just so much work out there that's either poorly done or misquoted or not quoted. Like we really live in like such a golden age for being a shop. Like if you give a shit, make good quality parts, and like respond back to emails, you're better than like what 80% of the shops out there.
Oh yeah, I always say communication is key. It's one of the most important things after quality.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I've
100%.
had customers where I think something's going to be late, and I'll shoot them an email a week and a half early. Hey, this is going to be a couple days late. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And 90% of the time, it still shows up on time. But I get an email back, and they're like, "Thank you. We really appreciate the heads up. We never get that from anybody. Like we can work with that as long as we know." And I
Right, they
always
can
say,
plan around that.
Yep. We all buy shit from Amazon. You order stuff online, and it tells you you're going to get it on Thursday. You fucking want that on Thursday. Your customer wants their parts. If it's not going to be there on time, let them know. If Amazon tells me it's not coming on Thursday, it's coming on Friday, I'm fine. But if I'm sitting here waiting on Thursday and it's not here, I'm kind of pissed. Like, I want it to show up. Even though I might not need it till Saturday, I still want it today because you told me it's coming today.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah. The first shop I worked at, that was such a big education, right? Like maybe a few months before I left, they had quoted a job and we started running it. And so we had cycle times, and I did the math, and I was like, hey guys, we're going to be late. You should let the customer know. They're like, no, we'll figure out a way. Like, I'm like, no, dude, math says that we're not going to make this. Like there's no going around math at this point. Like the cycle times just don't add up to being on time. Oh, well, we'll run it at night. I'm like, if we ran it 24/7, we would not hit this deadline. Can you just let them know? And of course they didn't do it. And the customer was pissed. They were livid. And I'm like, guys, we knew this 2.5 weeks ago. Like, what? Why? Why did we not just say something? And it drove me absolutely nuts.
Oh, dude. That's where I learned, and same thing, like communicating. I worked for companies where it's owner will come out, hey, when are you starting that job yet? I'm like, I'm going to start it tomorrow. They're like, all right, I told the customer I shipped it today. We need to get it done. I'm like, I got a week. I got a week of machine time. It's got to go to finishing. Like, why the fuck would you tell them that? He's like, well, they were pissed, so I had to tell them something. I'm like, what the fuck? And one of my customers, one of my first customers, is actually how I got them. I had left the company and went and worked somewhere else, and they knew I was running all the parts, and they found me, and they ended up bringing the parts to the next company I worked at, and then they just ended up staying with me. Once I ended up quitting and going on my own, they found me on LinkedIn. They're like, hey, can you still make our parts for us? I'm like, I guess, whatever. If you're going to come find me, I'll still do them for you.
Oh, that's crazy.
But then that lets you cut out the middleman and make all the money for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So we have a couple of questions that we got from the Instagram community, Dylan. We kind of already tackled this one, but Armstrong Powerlift asked you about the Hermla HS Flex reliability and your overall thoughts.
So I don't have like a great data point on that. I mean, I've had the machine for all of 20 something days, and I can't really run it in like full force right now because we're waiting on a power upgrade. It turns out, so we bought it with the new 20K air oil spindle, and our current one's an 18K grease pack. We thought, I think at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. It's 100% my fault for not finding out the information. But I think when we bought the machine, it was right as they were introducing the spindle, and we didn't have good documentation on the power needs. And it turns out that it needs almost double the amperage of the 18K. And like you would think, oh, 2,000 RPM more, it's like a little bit more. So like we can run it, but we just can't run it like fully automated, nonstop, all that stuff. But so far, our other C250 has been incredibly reliable.
Do you have machine warranty coverage or insurance coverage, mechanical breakdown?
I do. That one we did out of pocket because it was just the mathed out easier with just doing it out of pocket.
Interesting.
A good friend of mine, when we were starting to look at 5-axis, he said all 5-axis machines, I'm poorly paraphrasing, but like all 5-axis machines are liabilities. And I was like, I don't know what you mean by that. But the liability is that like once you get one, like everything is a 5-axis part and you only want to run it on your best machine. And so like the liability is like, oh, I don't have a backup. And then you get like 2 and you're like, I don't have a third. And so like they become a liability because they become such an integral part of your business. And so when we were looking at 5-axis, it was like, I need someone to come out tomorrow if I have a problem, or I need like, and they have amazing phone support and email support. I can, call or email them whenever about anything. And looking at other comparable machines, that's not the case with a lot of them. So that was our really, really big deciding factor.
And it's not even harder to program. I wouldn't even say, I'd say it might even be a little bit easier to program. And for me, it's easy to take a part that I flipped 6 times and just select my UMC and change my work coordinate system for all the setups, and it's just done.
Right.
Like I don't even have to worry about how I'm going to hold the part, which side I'm going to do first. I know I'm going to get all 5 done right away. I just have to worry about that final op that seems that doesn't exist in a 5-axis world because nobody fucking talks about it. I ran a part. I'm like, now how the fuck am I going to get this off of here? Like,
you want to pick out a question, Brad?
Fife Metalworks. Why are lathe daddies so much cooler than miltards? I think he's got that backwards.
Yeah, I think he must have had a aneurysm or something.
So I know that guy. He started kind of a side job where he just has I think a Haas ST 15Y lathe. So yeah, he's a straight up Chuck monkey.
Listen, I have all the respect in the world for lathe guys. It's just not my jam. Like I have taken the firm stance of like I'm going to be the best mill machinist I can possibly be. Not in the world. I'm not going to be that, but like I'm going to strive my best to be the best I can be, and I'm going to outsource all of the turning work to people who are really good at it. And I'd much rather do that partnership than try to be the best at both.
The last one is a little bit more personal. Connor Manufacturing asked, do you have any hot takes or perspectives learned from being a father?
I don't know that this is a hot take, but like I think that there's a lot of it seems like a lot of parents really fake it when they're telling people like, oh, it's the best thing ever and you're gonna be so happy. Like I think I want to be very clear that like becoming a father, my life is immeasurably harder than it ever has been. Like I have more love and my heart has grown 3 sizes. I am no longer the Grinch, but like it is immeasurably harder. Like I do not sleep. There is so much more to do. I have no downtime. I feel like I never have time at work for the projects I need to get done. I think it's objectively much harder than people kind of lead on to. And like, again, that's not to take away. Like it makes my day to come home and see her smile at me. And like, that is the best feeling in the world. And that's not to take away from any of that, but man, it's so, so, so hard. And I think that people really like turn on the rose-colored glasses when they're telling people about being a parent. And like it is fantastic. Like, as you know, Brad, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like it's so fucking hard.
Oh, dude, it's hard. Pat, don't have kids.
I've heard that like 10 times on this show.
Oh, it can be stressful.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't want to say it gets worse, but it gets different as they get older. My oldest will be 18 this summer, and it's a different kind of stress, a different kind of frustration. It's just like, I just want to fucking shake you. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, kid? Like, just listen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Not really, but I know that that's coming. Yeah, it's like, do you feel like you get too much sleep and have too much free time? Then you should have a kid. And it's also so funny because like I look back a year ago and like I remember feeling very busy, and now I look back, I'm like, what did you do with all your time? Like what were you filling this time with? Because
Right?
now there's no time, and so clearly you had extra time, but I don't remember having a bunch of free time, and like now I've got none. So it's so weird. Again, absolutely love her. It is the best thing in the world, but it is got to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
You know, quick thing on that note, though, Dylan. What do you do for health insurance? I keep asking every shop owner what they do for that, and because that's always like the big thing. You know, you leave a job that's hopefully paying a portion of your health insurance if you have it. Then you go on your own, and you're either paying for that all that on your own, or you just don't have it.
Proteum provides 100% health insurance for both Brad and I. We were actually, this is not my tip, but this can be a tip for later in the episode, or now. Find your local commerce or manufacturing or whatever groups. I know I've looked into it for a few friends. Like we joined the Arizona Tech Council, which is, for technology companies in Arizona. So like we've got a lot of optical, we've got a lot of manufacturing, we've got all this stuff, and you can join it if you're a technology company. And they provide group rates for small businesses at a minimum of 2 employees. So Brad and I, because we're 2 employees, we get a group rate through them with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it's very affordable for like a small business. And I've looked at it. I know I found the Chamber of Commerce in Wisconsin does it as well. I think I found another state that does it. They all have these manufacturing groups or something related to the Chamber of Commerce where like you can join the group, you pay your dues, you get to go to events, and very often they provide a number of services like that, 401k, health insurance, all of that stuff. And so I would highly recommend any small business to look into that stuff, because I think if we did this on our own, we'd probably be paying 3 or 4 times what we pay for Brad and I.
Damn.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, do you know what you pay for yourself?
I know before Molly was born, I think we pay just under $800 a month for both of us.
That's not bad.
That's for their like best level of care. So yeah,
wow,
that's not bad, because I have Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm gonna have to look into the Chamber of Commerce thing and see if there's anything around here. But I mean, we were paying, if it was just my wife and I think what I looked at the breakdown, we were paying $1,000 a month for just the 2 of us was what our coverage was. I think the kids were $250 each a month, but that was for like the worst coverage, like high deductible, HSA.
And that 800 was, it's not only Blue Cross, it's also vision, dental, and life insurance, I believe.
Oh, so that's a really good deal.
Yeah. And that's,
we've talked about this before privately. Like, there should be something where small businesses could get together as a group and get a group plan. The insurance companies are going to get a hell of a lot more people signing up. Just, it's worth it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you get the negotiating power of a much larger organization because of that. Like, where it's not Brad and I, it's Brad and I and 1,000 other companies. Like, that's all getting the rate. And it's a game changer for us. It really is. Like, I don't know that we would have made that business decision of doing 100% Proteum coverage,
Yeah.
whether if it wasn't as affordable as it is.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
There's always, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a PEO, which is hold on, let me get the professional employer organization. At my previous job, they joined InvoPO, and it's, bear with me because I never really got a good understanding of what it is, but it's essentially companies can join this group, and it's kind of the same thing what you're talking about, Dylan, but it's more, it's probably more for bigger companies. I mean, that was a 40 to 50 person company, but it puts you in a pool of literally thousands or tens of thousands of employees that are all technically part of the same group applying for whoever the insurance is. Now, truth be told, I don't really know how much it actually helped because it was still pretty expensive, but it was better. So there may be something like that for even if like the local government doesn't do it. Maybe there's companies that do that for even like one man shops like Brad or other people.
Yeah, for sure. I would look into something like that because it's not easy as a small business. I know a lot of people deal with that.
For sure.
So, yeah, look into it.
Well, all right, Dylan. What do you have for an impractical tip?
Okay, so I've got two. One more big picture, which is just never stop learning. I mean, this is a trade that will continually humble you every time you feel like you're on top of the world. That's like when your next crash or mistake or bad shipped part or something is right around the corner. So attack it like it's your job, because it is. But like, there's so much to learn. You're never going to know everything. I always tell everyone, like, if I know everything in machining, I'm quitting the next day. Like, I'm done. Like, there's no way I'm going to continue to do this. But more specific, I would advise everyone to learn GD&T and to really focus on inspection and focus on GD&T and learn what that means, because so many people are so scared of it. And it's to make parts easier. Like, I know a lot of people look at GD&T and they see it on prints and they get kind of gun shy about it. And they're like, oh, this is going to be so much harder. And it's like, if your engineer is worth half what his paycheck is, no, like, it's going to make your parts much easier to make. It's to give you extra tolerance to make these parts good still. But I think so many people don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to check flatness. They don't know how to check parallelism. They don't know how to check position correctly. They don't understand bonus tolerance. That you get like this hearsay through the generations of people in a shop with nobody actually knowing what's going on. And then you end up making bad parts because you just don't know what the symbols mean. And it's, you don't need to go like, full crazy like I did and get certified, but like, you can at least crack open a book or take some classes and learn some stuff. And it's really, really important because it does help you make parts easier.
I've seen a lot of people confused by GD&T, and I don't have the best understanding of it myself, but I definitely, there's so much more to inspecting and measuring a part than just throwing a mic on it. There's so much more beyond that.
Cool.
But like I said, you don't need to go full crazy, but like, even just taking the first 2 courses at GD&T Basics or buying one of the books or something like that is, I think, well worth it for any machinist who interacts with that kind of stuff. Like, obviously, if you're, I don't know, making internal parts that don't have drawings, don't do it. Like, don't waste your time and money on it. But like, if you're interacting with customers that use GD&T, you should at least be knowledgeable of what they're asking.
Yeah. I got this thing. It sits here. I was there.
That's a great reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great tip, Dylan, for sure. Both of
Thanks.
them. So obviously, we've kind of talked about it already, but if the audience wants to follow your adventure or listen to the podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, thanks. You can find the podcast on any podcast player with Intolerance Podcast. It's also on YouTube. I've started doing video in the last, 6 or 8 months, something like that. So there's now video with guests. Instagram, either with Intolerance Podcast or at Proteum Mac, MACH. I'm on LinkedIn as Dylan Jackson, and there's a Within Tolerance one, but like many of your guests, I'm not a big fan, so I don't spend a whole lot of time on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So yeah, those are the best places to find me. I mean, DM me on Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of me, or if you need to email, Dylan at Proteum Machining is my email, and feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, everybody be sure to check out Within Tolerance podcast if you haven't already. There's one episode with my silly hind end on it, plus plenty of other wonderful people. So, yeah. All right. Thank you very much,
Thanks so
Dylan.
much, guys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Come on.
That's all for this episode of the Impractical Machinist podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Practical Machinist YouTube channel so you never miss an episode.
Also, give us a like or a 5-star rating if you enjoyed this episode. Drop a comment down below of what you learned from us, or to share your own experience and spread the word. Let your fellow machinists know about us. If you have any follow-up questions, you can DM us on Instagram, the Practical Machinist Forum, or on the Discord in our Instagram bios. And check out our Instagrams as well at JobShopperTN, at Machining is Cool, at Marvel Machining, and also be sure to follow Dylan at Proteum Machine at MACH and at Within Tolerance Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Keep those chips flying.